I'm back. Had some breakfast. Um, Today is Wednesday, the day that they have AW wrestling, but that's not what I'm talking about here on YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about. Hold on. Let me make sure my teeth has been clean. All right, this is going to be episode 3 of my new series. Sorry, that was a water sprinkling truck. This is going to be part 3 of my boxing series, Boxing What If. And today's episode, I tease two fighting legends in their own right. It's going to be the legendary Roberto Duran. Wait for it, I'm going to say it again. I said Roberto Duran versus Manny Pacquiao. I said, are you ready? I said, are you ready? Let's get ready to rumble. Gotta miss the 90s of boxing. Like I was basically saying, these are two fighting legends from two different time periods. Both fighters have a lot of similarities. Both fighters lived in poor countries. Both fighters had to rise to prominence. Both guys are just average normal guys outside of boxing, but in boxing, they were boxing's legendary elite status fighters. Both have held number of championships. Both have fought other fighters and respectively had fought and beat some of these people. Now, Roberto Duran started his boxing career in 1968, from 1968 to 2001. That's like a 20 plus year boxing career. Now, he did compete in those 1965, 1964 Olympics. Somewhere around in there, he competed in those Olympics where they tried to cheat him out of a gold medal. Miraculously, it took him like 2 years to get the gold medal, and when he saw that he couldn't get the gold medal, he did the only thing he could do. I want to go pro. Now, he started fighting at the age of 12, going on 13 years old. So he was kind of around the same age when Manny Pacquiao started fighting. Like, he participated in cockfights, street fights, anything that has something to do with fighting, Roberto Duran would fight for money. When he was told he was too young to get a job, his job was fighting in the street, and that's how he made his money. And he hung out with this one guy that was like in his 30s, and that's how he got his start in boxing. They knew somebody in America that was a boxing promoter, and as the rest they say is history. He got into his first professional debut and knocked somebody out in his first fight. And then after like 10 fights later, he was like 10-0, undefeated. He finally fights a fighter by the name of Elmas Marshall, who was the lightweight champion, and he knocked him out and took his championship belt. And he would have like 10 championship title defenses. All of a sudden, his record moved from 10-0 to 20-0. And it wasn't until he got into the 1970s that he started to fight other fighters. Like at the time, they wanted to set up a fight between him and some other guy, which turned into a 3-fight trilogy, which he won the first fight, second fight in a tie, third fight, he miraculously won that, and then he would pick up another championship belt, so he would win 2 championship belts. Yeah, he actually picked these belts up and became undisputed champion when he done that. But it wasn't until the late 1970s that he suffered his first loss. Lost both championship belts, had a rematch, took the championship belts back. His record was like 29 and 0. 29 and 1. And then he met a fighter in those pivotal 80s that changed his destiny forever. He fought a man by the name of Sugar Ray Leonard. And it all changed on that day. He still won the fight. Miraculously, he took his belt. And then he went on to go fight Marvelous Marvin Hagler, who he lost. That gave him his second loss. So he had now had 2 losses, and now his record was like 35 wins with 2 losses. He couldn't believe that this happened. And then he fought all the other people, and then by the time he fights Sugar Ray Leonard in a rematch, his record's now like 39-3. So he had suffered his third loss. And Sugar Ray Leonard was playing around, clowning in the ring, showboating, and Roberto Duran's looking like, is this guy gonna fight for real? Is this guy serious? I'm a real fighter. Why is he playing around in the ring? This is when boxing transitioned from being an actual sport to being considered that of entertainment. And Sugar Ray Leonard couldn't understand that. I mean, Sugar Ray Leonard couldn't understand why Roberto Duran did not understand what he was doing, so he quit and thinking he was being taunted, and so he just quit. And fans were enraged when Roberto Duran did it. Like, I remember when I was a kid reading the books, my dad told me, you weren't even born yet. My dad told me he got death threats. I'm going to blow up your house. I'm going to get you and your wife and kids. Because they thought that at the time, yes, the mob is into boxing. And they thought he threw the fight. And somebody who's close to that organization said, we ain't had no acknowledgement of that. And we could see that Roberto Duran was messing with the alcohol, the drugs. He was like 50 pounds overweight. He was fat and had a shave. He had been boxing. It was like 4 years later he had retired from boxing. And it wasn't until like 1988, the same time that Sugar Ray Leonard came out of retirement to set up a fight with Marvelous Marvin Hagler. And the winner out of that fight would fight whoever. And Sugar Ray Leonard convinced and talked Roberto Duran and coming out of retirement, and he did. And he got back in the great, fantastic athletic shape. By this point, he was like 36, 37 years old, like kind of past his physical prime. And boxing experts say, well, if he's in his mid-30s, almost 40, he ain't got no shot at fighting some of these next-generation fighters. By this time period, fighters like Bernice Forrest, Puri Winokur, Bernard Hopkins had came, Roy Jones Jr. had came, the Mayweathers, before Floyd Mayweather came, he had uncles that came. All these new generation fighters had popped up in the 80s and the 90s. And quite frankly, they didn't think he could fight any of these guys. There's Mickey Ward. Oh yeah, he had an incredible trilogy with Mickey Ward. That gave him his fourth pivotal loss, and then he had 4 losses. And then he had the fight where he beat someone and took a championship belt that made him a 4-time world champion. So he won 4 championships and 4 weight classes. He was, featherweight. He was welterweight. He was middleweight, middle heavyweight, lightweight. So he actually won 5 championship belts, but it was in 4 weight classes. Because when he tried to make himself a 5-time world champion, he took another loss. And then he just had a series of losses for whatever reason. After he had his fight with Sugar Ray Leonard in their third and final fight of the trilogy, he would fight Thomas Hitman Hearns again. And this time Tommy would beat him. Like, I don't remember them fighting, but my dad said he did try to fight all the people he fought earlier. He tried to fight them again a decade later. So he picked up another loss. And then he tried fighting some of these new generation fighters, and surprise, he managed to knock some of them out. All of them made the mistake of playing around with him in the first 6 or 7 rounds, and he would knock these guys out. These guys were bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic than him, and they were playing around with Roberto. And Roberto had this serious look in his eyes, and he has a nickname, the Hands of Stone. Because when he hits you, it ain't like a hand hitting you. It's like stone hitting you. And he knocked out a guy who was on the verge of winning a fight. And when he started knocking some of these guys that were in their, from ages 20 to 27, when he started knocking these guys half his age out, that inspired another boxer by the name of George Foreman to come out of retirement and give his shot in the ring. George Foreman come out of retirement. Larry Holmes come out of retirement. Because Roberto Duran was the guy who came at 34, 35. going on 36. And then finally, he kept fighting in the 90s, and it was a shock that he didn't fight people like Roy Jones Jr. He almost done. It almost happened. Julius Caesar Chavez, he was supposed to have a fight with him, but for some reason, every time he got to that guy, the fight would get hold up. And this is where Roberto became one of those boxers that would badmouth Don King because he wanted the fight to be made. This is when Bob Arum came into the boxing scene, and Roberto was furious. He couldn't understand that boxing had went from boxing to entertainment. They were afraid that Roberto Duran would break the undefeated record of Julius Chavez, so he had to fight 10 people to get another championship fight, which he did get another championship fight, and he would lose that. And that gave him like his seventh or eighth loss. And you could see that he felt he got cheated. It was controversial in 91, 92. He claimed he was cheated out of a championship, which he was. And then further into his career, when he got to 94, 95, he again had another championship fight. He wanted to take on Oscar De La Hoya, but at that time, Oscar's like, I'm Oscar and I only fight the best of the best. And, they weren't going to let him fight no Oscar De La Hoya and break his record. So, again, they made him fight some more people. He beat all of them. And again, they cheated him out of a championship belt. And he just couldn't believe that after winning 4 championships and having 3 more shots at these belts, anyone that they felt that was a threat, they would not let him fight them because they knew he would just beat half these guys his age. And it wasn't until like 98, 99 that they finally let him have another shot at the title. But this weren't even on Showtime Boxing. This weren't even on HBO Boxing. This was like international boxing where he finally picked up another championship. And then he got the call to fight. I think at that time they weren't like, because they weren't going to let him fight Oscar. They weren't going to let him fight Phoenix Trinidad because that was considered the fight of the century because they thought he might have been too old to fight any one of those fighters. And they asked Roberto Duran, in his opinion, who you think will win the fight, Phoenix Trinidad or Oscar? And he kind of had this look like, are you stupid? It's going to be Phoenix Trinidad. That just threw more controversial. And then he got to the year 2000 where he got knocked out, and that gave him his 12th loss. At this point now, he had 12 losses. And by 2001, he had his last and final fight, which was his retirement farewell fight, which he miraculously won to a unanimous decision and retired at 41 or 42 or something like that. So he had a long, prosperous boxing career. Now his opponent, Manny Pacquiao, we got to call him the ultimate Renaissance man, because Manny Pacquiao did a lot of stuff that you don't expect. I mean, Manny first was in the military for like almost 7 years. He was in the Philippine military army for almost 7 years. And he started fighting at the age of 14 years old. And then Manny was kind of a police officer for a little bit. They don't talk about it, but he was in the military. He was a police officer. He was a security guard. And then he decided to take an interest in playing basketball. Like, he loved basketball so much because he always talked about the 1992 Olympic Dream Team. Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Charles Oakley, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, John Stockton, and those boys. He always spoke of that team, so he loved basketball so much that when David Stern started to go to places like China and Japan and create another version of the NBA, Manny managed to get onto a basketball team and play professional basketball for about 4 or 5 years. And he was pretty good at it. He was point guard. Like, Manny could hit some three-pointers. You'd be surprised. Manny got some crossovers. Like, I was shocked because when he started playing celebrity basketball, like in 2008, 2009, I was stunned that he could even play basketball. I was like, oh, shit, Manny could box and he could beat your ass in basketball. Like, what the hell? So he's like the ultimate Renaissance guy. Now, when he did started doing amateur boxing, he was just knocking people out. I mean, this was a guy that was tiny, and he was just knocking people the fuck out. Then he got into his professional debut, and that was like in 1992, around that time period where Roberto Duran was trying to start the second half of his boxing career, and Manny was just beating people. Like he was the underdog. Nobody thought Manny was gonna beat anything in boxing. He hooked up with Freddie Roach, and these two became the dynamic duo of the 1990s and 2000s. And they were greatly compared to Muhammad Ali and Angelo Dundee, and he was just beating people. Then in 25, 20 to 25 fights later, he wins his first middleweight championship title. He did start it off as a featherweight. Then he worked his way to welterweight. Then he worked his way up to middleweight. And then you fast forward like 10 years later, he's like a three-time world champion. And he would just beat people, no matter who it was. They could be bigger, stronger, faster. He was just beating their ass. He fought Sugar Mosley, he beat him. He fought Oscar De La Hoya, he beat him. If Bernard Hopkins, when Bernard Hopkins was going through his boxing midlife crisis, they were supposed to fight, and had they fought, he would have beat him too. I mean, he was just constantly just beating people. He fought a Vernus Forrest that was past his prime, knocked him out. He fought Jermaine Taylor, beat him. Like, he was just steady, just taking people's shit. He was just beating people, taking a championship belt. And it's like, this little man coming here whooping all this ass. Like, what the hell? And I was just shocked that Manny was short, small, tiny, and was just knocking people out. It was like, take Mike Tyson's punching power with the body of Manny Pacquiao, and he was just knocking people out. Like he was cleaning up the division and was behind Mayweather. And at that time, people kept teasing somewhere in the future, between 2001 to 2010, there should be a fight between Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Because he was just beating people. Like, you name the person, he whoop him. Miguel Cotto, he beat Miguel Cotto. It was a shock. They fought twice, he beat him twice. I'm like, what? Like, what? Else, like, the toughest Mexican, Miguel Cotto was one tough son of a bitch, and he beat him twice. Then there was one on Marquez, the guy that he fought 5 damn times. Every time Manny Pacquiao fought him, he won. The first fight, Manny Pacquiao won by unanimous decision. The second fight, Juan Marquez was beating Manny Pacquiao, but Manny won the fight a second time, and Juan Marquez complained and said he got cheated, which he did get cheated out of the fight, because I even was saying he should have won the rematch. And I almost, by the way, and had I bet it, I would have lost all my fucking money. Thank God I didn't do it. They had a third fight, and again, they declared Manny Pacquiao. That was 3 fights in a row. The fourth fight, he really did whoop Manny Pacquiao so bad that Manny wasn't even in the right state of mind, and they still gave the decision to Manny Pacquiao. That was 4 times Manny beat Juan Marquez. And I was like, shit, that's 4 damn fucking fights with one person. Every time he fights this guy, he takes his damn championship belt. It's like, God damn, again. Now he's a 4-time world champion. Then he gets to Timothy Bradley, and I guess decided they wanted to punish Manny Pacquiao because Manny didn't want to obey, because he wanted to see the Celtics and the Miami Heat's Game 7 of the NBA playoffs to see who was going to advance to the NBA Finals and take on, I think, I can't remember if this fight, I think it might have been 2013. And he didn't want to come out of the locker room. And his answer was, had it been someone like Floyd Mayweather Jr., I'd be more happy, motivated to fight. So surprise, surprise, they punished him. And then he ended up having a rematch, and he beat Timothy Bradley and knocked him out in the rematch and took his belt back. So technically, Manny's actually a 5-time world champion. Yeah, he was getting close to Mayweather's level. Then Manny fought Marcos Maidana, beat his ass too. And then finally, there were talks of Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. But unfortunately, it would be one, two, three, four. It took 5 years to get this damn bloody fight. Instead of seeing Mayweather every year, it was Manny Pacquiao versus Ricky Hatton. Like, I don't want to see this shit. I mean, for 5 and almost 6 years, like Stephen A. Smith said, I don't want to see Floyd give Manny Pacquiao an old school boxing lesson. I gotta wait this long for this fight. I spoke to Floyd, and Floyd told me he'll do a round with him in 6 out of 12 rounds of boxing. I want to know what is taking so long. I know it's a terrible Stephen A. Smith impersonation. And we finally get the damn fight we all been logging for. Now, to me, and I hate to say this, but had Manny Pacquiao not done them Nike commercials, he's going to fight me, he's going to fight me. Had he not done that shit, he probably would have beat Mayweather. It seems like it was a jinx because I seen that commercial like 20 times in one day. I play basketball, people walking up to me saying Manny Pacquiao gonna whoop Mayweather's ass. I'm like, okay. I go to the gym, people get in my face talking about Manny Pacquiao gonna whoop that ass. I'm like, okay, man, get out of my face now. And we waiting 5 months for the fight, and people are talking shit to me. I go to the gym, they talking shit. I play basketball, they talking shit. Finally, when we get to the fight, it seemed from the very beginning, it seemed like that's what was gonna happen. Manny was gonna finally show the world, yeah, I'm gonna beat Mayweather. Until Mayweather turned into a Super Saiyan and went Super Saiyan on that ass. Once Mayweather did what Stephen A. Smith said, an old school boxing lesson of a lifetime. This is what I got from Manny Pacquiao that disappointed me when he lost. This is what I heard. He's too fast. I couldn't hit him. He's too fast. And I'm like, you move just, if any faster than Manny Pacquiao. You were fast enough in the first 6 rounds to get a punch on him, which no one ever gets a fast punch on Mayweather. And you did that and still came up with an excuse. Then you were injured. And I'm like, you were hiding the injury from us this whole entire time? But in the commercial, you didn't seem injured. That's what my disappointment was. And then he wins another championship belt and makes himself a 6-time world champion. Now I'm scratching my head like I hear talks that they want a Mayweather Manny Pacquiao part 2. Because when he fought Juan Marquez for the 5th time, Marquez finally knocked him out. And he wanted to have a 6th fight, and Juan Marquez turned it down. And Manny's like, we could fight for the 6th and final time. And Juan Marquez said no. If I'm him, I say no too. Shit, you beat me 4 times, only got you 1. No. Then he fights another fighter, knocks out a no-name fighter, and then looks at Mayweather in the stands like, I want a rematch. And I'm like, so we gotta wait another 5.5 years to see if we're gonna get a rematch? That's what we're waiting for now? I mean, outside of boxing, Manny's a great guy, a politician. You know, he broke into movies and television. He has a singing career. I mean, the guy can do it all. It's just, in this one fight. Now, when you talk about what would happen if it was Roberto Duran versus Manny Pacquiao in their primes, I gotta go with Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran will beat Manny Pacquiao 5 out of 10 times. And it isn't because Roberto Duran's bigger, stronger, and faster. It's because he's more skilled, he's more agile, and he's had more fights. He's been boxing for 20 plus years, and he's had every fight you can think of. He's been in every situation. If you look at the way Sugar Ray Leonard fought Roberto Duran and beat him twice in a trilogy, and you look at the way Manny Pacquiao fought and lost to Mayweather, if you look in the mirror, Manny Pacquiao and Roberto Duran are kind of like the same fighter. The difference is Roberto Duran was able to still fight in his prime, even though he was far removed from his prime. Manny was able to do the same thing, but in their prime, Roberto Duran would have won the fight simply because Roberto would be able to cut off the ring. He would be aware of punching power because he has it himself. And obviously, in the beginning, Manny would have the advantage until it's revealed that Roberto Duran is just allowing him to have the advantage, and then slowly but maturely, Roberto will have that look in his eyes, that cold stare look in his eyes, and knock Manny Pacquiao out. And a prime example of this is when Manny had lost. If you look at when he had his fights with Juan Marquez, Marquez had to take either a similar style of Roberto Duran just to beat Manny Pacquiao. So you can imagine what would happen if they had a trilogy of fights. The first fight, Roberto Duran would win. Now, maybe in the rematch, Manny Pacquiao wins, but in that third and final fight, it might result in a tie because Roberto would do everything he could to make sure he got the victory. And Manny would be doing all he could to make sure he didn't get knocked out. And that's how Roberto won a lot of his fights. People doing all they could not to get knocked out, only to get knocked out. So your winner is going to be Roberto Duran. Next time on Boxing's What If, Wladimir Klitschko, Dr. Steelhammer versus George Foreman. They don't know me, man.